Okay, today we're going to discuss gerrymandering. Now, as we know, representation in the U.S. House of Representatives is based on population. Each state gets at least one representative, and larger states get more. Size of the House has been set at 435 members since 1911. The distribution of seats among the states changes. In 1911, for example, California had 8 representatives and New York had 37. In 2019, California had 53 representatives in the House of Representatives and New York has 27. What do you think happened? Reapportionment. Put this in your notes. This is the process through which seats in the House of Representatives are redistributed as a result of changes in population. How does this work? Every 10 years, the federal government conducts a census, which is a survey of the population of the United States, which is required by the Constitution. If the census shows population shifts, e.g. people moved from the Midwest to the West, the House must reapportion its seats. Again, look at your definition of reapportionment, the process through which seats in the House of Representatives are redistributed as a result of changes in population. So each state must then go through a process of redistricting, put that in your notes, redrawing district boundaries to reflect changes in population. This usually is the responsibility of state legislatures, such as California State Legislature. Now, we come to the vocabulary word that we're going to be studying for the rest of the lesson, gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is when a district boundaries, meaning a voting district, are drawn in order to benefit the party in power and to help it stay in power. That's the definition. And there are two tools state legislatures use in order to gerrymander districts. Packing and cracking, and we'll get into what those are in a minute. In this map, where the district lines mathematically reflect the electorate, how many red voters are there in total? Count them up. All of the red boxes. How many blue voters are there in total? Count them up. All the blue boxes. In each district, okay, so now looking into the boxes created by the black lines, in each district, how many red voters are there? In each district, how many blue voters are there? How many districts are there where a blue candidate is certain to win? How many districts where a red candidate is certain to win? If district lines are drawn in this manner, who has more power, the voter or the party machine? In other words, who decides who will be in power in the next term if the lines are drawn this way? The party that drew the lines or the voter? Who's going to decide who's in power in the next term? So imagine that the blue party gets control of the state legislature when it's time to redistrict. The blue party may choose to gerrymander the electorate in this way, as you can see on the map. Packing, drawing district lines in order to concentrate the opposing party in a few districts, saving the majority of seats for itself. So let's take a look at this map. How many red voters are there in total? I'll give you a hint, it hasn't changed from the previous map. How many blue voters are there in total? Again, give you a hint, hasn't changed from the previous map. But how many districts are there now where a blue candidate is certain to win? How many districts where a red candidate is certain to win? Wait, red voters represent 50% of the vote, but red candidates only win 25% of the state seat in the U.S. House of Representatives? Are red voters fairly represented if the district lines are drawn in this way, using packing? No, this is partisan redistricting. And partisan is a word that means prejudiced in favor of a particular party. This is a very important word for you to understand, particularly in our current political climate. We see a lot of partisan bickering these days, prejudice in favor of a particular party. So here we're seeing district lines that reflect partisan abuse of power, not the electorate. District lines are drawn in this manner. Who has more power, the voter or the party machine? In other words, who decides who will be in power in the next term, the party that drew the lines or the voter? Now, imagine the red party gets control of the state legislature when it's time to redistrict. The red party may choose to gerrymander the electorate in this way. Cracking, and this needs to go in your votes, cracking is drawing district lines in such a way as to spread out the opposing party throughout the state, diluting their strength. So, again, how many red voters are there in total? Hint, same as was before. How many blue voters are there in total? Hint, same as there was before. How many districts where a blue candidate is certain to win? How many districts where a red candidate is certain to win? Wait, blue voters represent 50% of the vote, but the blue candidates only win 25% of the state seat in the House of Representatives? Are blue voters fairly represented here? No, this is partisan redistricting. And again, district lines are drawn in this manner. Who has more power, the voter or the party machine? In other words, who decides who will be in power in the next term, the party that drew the lines or the voter? All right, now some practice. Take a look at this map. Which would you say has been used to draw and redistrict here? Packing or cracking? What has been used? Now, another concept, incumbents. Very important for you to understand this word incumbents. An incumbent is an elected politician who already holds the elected position. This is the guy who's already got the job and eventually will probably run again for the same job, but he's already there, so he has a particular advantage. Now, California's 12th congressional district, San Francisco. What do you know about San Francisco? Is San Francisco known to be liberal or conservative? Which party is this constituency guaranteed to vote for? Does the incumbent of San Francisco really have to listen to his or her constituency in order to get reelected? Do you know who the incumbent is for California's 12th congressional district? It's Nancy Pelosi. She's the Speaker of the House of Representatives and the second in line of presidential succession. In other words, she's in a very powerful position in the House. Even though her seat is up for grabs every 2 years, she has held her seat in the House for 33 years. Obviously, we can take a look at her constituency to understand why she might be reelected on a regular basis. Now, another example. Are California's mountain folk, we're looking at California's 4th congressional district, the Tahoe mountain region, the Yosemite mountain region, forest region, Stanislaus forest region, all up in the Sierra Nevadas. Are California's mountain folk known for being liberal or conservative? Which party is this constituency guaranteed to vote for? Does the incumbent of the Tahoe Yosemite area really have to listen to his or her constituency in order to get reelected? Do you remember who the incumbent is? It's Tom McClintock. Even though his seat is up for grabs every 2 years, he has held his seat in the House for 11 years and is likely to hold it for at least another decade more, if not more. So let's go back to our hypotheticals. Let's say the red party and blue party have a relatively equal power in the state legislature, and they have to work really closely together when it comes time to redistrict. How many red voters are there in total? How many blue voters are there in total? Again, it's the same as before. Now, how many districts, if we have a situation where the red and blue party have to work together in order to draw these lines, how many districts where a blue candidate is certain to win? How many districts where a red candidate is certain to win? Which map of district lines gives the voter the most power to decide who should represent them based on a candidate's merits? Which map of district lines gives the parties control over who is in power? Why would both parties, the red and the blue party, prefer to redistrict according to the map on the right? Why would parties prefer this map rather than this map on the left? Gerrymandering makes it so that the House of Representatives doesn't actually represent the interests of the majority of the people, as their voices are drowned out as the major parties see fit. Therefore, representatives are less likely to make decisions and pass legislation that will benefit their constituents. Now, what has the Supreme Court said about this? If it's an equal rights issue, shouldn't the Supreme Court get involved? For the 1960s, the Supreme Court was reluctant to take gerrymandering cases at all because they viewed it as the legislative branch's business. However, in 1995, the Supreme Court ruled that racial gerrymandering is unconstitutional, e.g. packing all the Latino voters into one district, diluting their vote. Nevertheless, in June 2019, the Supreme Court ruled that the federal courts are powerless to hear challenges to partisan gerrymandering, such as the ones we've looked at, and that only the legislature has that power. But the members of the legislatures are the ones benefiting from the current system. To what extent do you agree with the Supreme Court's June 2019 ruling?